who we are planning to help. If you allow me, I would like to start. We'll have two panels today. The first panel will be the presentation of the project itself, and the second panel will be the conversation with the service members, representatives of the Mariupol garrison. For us, the main idea of the project is dignity. We keep coming back to it. It's a respect of dignity, it's dignified support, dignified future, and the word dignity, I believe, is the word that during the war kind of loses its meaning a little bit, because the main aim is victory, of course, and we are unified around the idea of victory, but the goal behind this project is to not lose our dignity, is to keep focusing on our dignity. Because assistance or support is important, but dignity is not any less important. And let's stay focused on the word dignity. And I think if we are able to create an ecosystem around this word, then it will definitely come in handy not only for the Mariupol defenders, but the Ukrainian defenders in general later on. Just to be brief. On January 16th, we have declared that we are launching a project to support the Mariupol garrison, the Mariupol defenders, the individuals that were engaged in the defense of Mariupol, those service members, those heroes. They were defending Mariupol since February 24th until May 20th. It's very important that we talk about the defenders in general rather than talking about specific military units. The auctioneer of the steel plant, Mr. Renat Akhmetov, said that he will be sending 1 billion hryvnia to fund these goals. We're not talking about any specific time frames because we do not know how quickly we'll be able to organize everything in a dignified manner to make sure that we provide as much assistance as possible to both the service members and their families. And it's very important to note that we're talking about the service members of not only those who are killed in action, but those who are currently missing in action and those who are prisoners of war. Over the course of 4 weeks, we have conducted multiple consultations. It is the main tasks that we have assigned to ourselves right now. It is very important for us not to make things up, but rather focus on real, actual needs of service members and their families. I can honestly tell you that we don't have any clear numbers. We don't know how many people we have to help. We know that according to what service members have said, there were approximately 4,000 people engaged in the defense of Azovstal plant. In defense of Mariupol, there were more service members engaged, so thousands of service members. We understand quite clearly that while launching the project, we'll definitely see more information coming in. However, quite unfortunately, we don't have any specific numbers because it's difficult to have specific numbers during the war. You know, people say this phrase, the fog of war, that all of the clear understanding is only obtainable after the end of the war. In our case, after Mariupol will be deoccupied and we will have access to all of the information. We have named this project the Heart of Azovstal, even though it is not only related to the defenders of Azovstal, but actually to the defenders of the Mariupol garrison in general. But we named it the Heart of Azovstal because Azovstal has become a symbol. It is very important for us to keep the symbolism. It is very important for us to maintain this history, to safeguard this history, the history of the defense of Mariupol in general. The Heart of Azovstal is a part of a large military initiative that we have launched on February 24th. We are calling this initiative the Steel Front, and the Steel Front, as first and foremost, is a project that is designed to help service members with the fortifications. But this is the first time ever that we are actually approaching the topic of supporting service members. after service. Those people who are currently in rehabilitation or currently not in active duty service. Ksenia Sukhova will be the head of the project, and so I would like to say just a few words why her. Ksenia is from Mariupol originally. She has been working on different social projects in Mariupol for many years, and she's been in contact with service members prior to the beginning of the full-scale aggression. She is the local council member. It's very important for us because this project is about care and support, and so we believe that having a woman lead this project would reinforce this idea. We will definitely have to add service members and veterans into the project leading board. We also have Yuri Cherenkov, the CEO of Metinvest. I would like to thank the former head of the Ministry of Veterans. This is a new topic for us. We have been consulting with a lot of the players on the Ukrainian arena and the international arena with the best international experience. And so in the second panel, we'll have a representative from the US, because he carries American experience of launching similar projects. Two very important things. First, it is not a report on the project. This is our first day. We're starting our support today. Today we'll start receiving the requests, and we will start to take a look at how we can best help. We do not have a prepared model. We are establishing this model right now. It will take approximately 6 weeks to create a tentative list of projects together with the Mariupol garrison, as well as a finalist list of partners. We do not plan to do everything on our own. We're planning to partner up with the strong Ukrainian organizations. And Ksenia will tell you a little bit more about who specifically we will work with. But I would like to say is that today we're working closely with the non-governmental organizations, volunteer organizations, patronage services of the Mariupol garrison are doing a lot and working quite hard. We are not creating something parallel, but we are partnering with all of them. We are creating an efficient ecosystem, and I believe it can become a great prototype of how these types of cooperations can work in Ukraine. After our victory, I would suggest that we start. Ksenia Sukhova will tell you what the project is about, how it will be structured, how to address the project with requests, how can you partner up with us, how we will coordinate our activities with the Mariupol garrison. Good afternoon to all of the people present here. First and foremost, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for this opportunity, for the trust that has been bestowed upon me, and first and foremost, it is a great responsibility for me. I understand that I will be working with people who are heroes for each and every one of us, every family, every person, every child who was there defending our city, and it is a great responsibility. Today we received a task to help people, to find help for everyone. It has to be need-based assistance. We have to hear everyone. My team and I, we will create this support circle around these people. It's not gonna be something that they have to look for. It will be established around them. And we have this mission. We will be taking care. We will be finding assistance. Even if it will not be covered by iProject, as it has been said, we will be working with a lot of partners, and this is very important. We are ready to share experiences. We would like to create the most transparent, the most important assistance project for every Mariupol defender. If I may, I would like to present to you the primary lines of effort, the primary steps that we have made towards implementing the heart of Azovstal. we're saying that the heart of Azovstal has to be beating loudly. Why? Because this heroic act shall not be forgotten, and this is very important to us. What is the heart of Azovstal? I will answer the most basic questions first and foremost. So, what is the heart of Azovstal? This is a non-governmental organization that is a part of a large military project, the Steel Front. And it is a great pleasure for us to become a part of this strongly implemented project that we have heard a lot about, and we will be becoming the part of that project today. Our goal is to become the center of assistance and care for the Mariupol defenders and the families of people who have been killed in action, missing in action, and who are POWs. The project is dedicated to preserving the memory about the heroic act of the Mariupol defenders amongst the Ukrainian citizens and the citizens of the world. Our main principles are the respect to the dignity of the warriors today and in the future. Program work always in coordination with the defenders, engagement of global experience for support after service, cooperation with the leading Ukrainian experts and organizations along each line of the lines of effort, establishment of practices and projects with an open code. This means that we will be openly sharing our best practices, and we will be happy if they help somebody else. Who are we helping? Defenders of Mariupol from all units that were defending the city. Families of the killed heroes, families of the service members who are considered missing in action or POWs, service members who are returning home after being held prisoners of war. These very first steps that we are making are our interviews with service members, and it is very important because we have to find out from the service members directly what our priorities should be. How can we help? Because there's a lot of work, and it is a great responsibility, and we want to make it as efficient as possible and as transparent as possible. How are we working? How will we be working? We are creating a database of people who will be receiving assistance from the heart of Azovstal. We are establishing a coordination council of officers. It will be a council that will be assisting us. Natalia has already told you we'll not be making decisions on our own because it's very important for us to rely on the experience. It's very important for us to ask you specifically, and therefore the coordination council will be made up of the representatives of the units who defended Mariupol. And these people will be our support. They will be our backbone in decision making. What should we prioritize? Where do we start? We're planning to take their advice on all of this. We are consistently reviewing data about service members and their families and verifying this data through their military units. That's about transparency. It's very important. We are finding out about the needs of defenders of Mariupol and their families. We're selecting the options of the most efficient assistance. As I have already said, we will be doing this in cooperation. Even if we cannot cover certain needs, we will definitely try to look for ways to do so. And we will be supporting throughout the entire implementation of the project Heart of Azovstal, establishing partnership relations with the Ukrainian international organizations that are working with service members if our values line up. We have already talked about our principles, about our goals, and so all the organizations will be open to cooperation. We will be open to cooperation as well to exchange lessons learned. We're planning to cooperate with organizations that provide high-quality expertise. This is also very important. We're learning global lessons learned. While looking for partners to focus on organizations who have practical and efficient programs in place, we are striving to establish practices and projects with an open code that could be scaled up on other projects. I have already mentioned that we want to share our own practices and our own experiences. We're establishing the Council of the Heart of Azovstal. It's a little bit different than Coordination Council. This council will be made up of experts, for example, medical experts, rehabilitation experts, military experts, that will be able to help us to implement our programs. They will provide their expert opinion, they would guide our work, and this will be yet another body that we will definitely present later on, because we have to start working on establishing this body. We have to understand what type of requests we will have, and then we'll be ready to talk about it. The lines of efforts that we envisage for ourselves, they were selected from the global best practices. So we have looked at the countries that have lived through military conflicts, like the United States of America, like Israel, and other countries. And we were able to see these lines of effort that are present throughout different organizations who are working on assisting service members. That's healthcare, including surgeries, prosthetics, rehabilitation. That's families. This is a program of support for the families of service members, of killed in action, prisoners of war, and missing in action. We have heard that this is a very important topic, and we will try to implement this project. Dear colleagues, since the next speaker only has like 10 minutes to join us, I would like to quite briefly tell you that I'm so sorry for interrupting. On February 16, 2022, all of us were there in Mariupol together with Renat Akhmetov. We were presenting this huge project of modernization of the steel plants worth $1 billion. So there were huge plans, huge investment opportunities. The full-scale warfare started in a week, and Azovstal became a fortress. Azovstal became the place where the Azovstal garrison, approximately 4,000 people, held their stronghold for 86 days. I would like to give the floor to Yuri Rezhenkov, the CEO of Metinvest. Metinvest is a partner of the Heart of Azovstal. In order to ask him how did it happen that Azovstal became this heart of resistance, and to ask him how will Metinvest help this project. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, dear guests. Organizers, Ksenia, I'm very sorry for interrupting. Trust me, Metinvest will definitely compensate you by helping this project. You know, for Metinvest, Mariupol is this glorified city. It's a city that has been always famous as the heart of Ukrainian metallurgical industry. There are two steel plants, Ilich steel plant and Azovstal steel plants, that were working in Mariupol. And so it's no surprise that Metinvest has been engaged in the defense of Mariupol since 2014. I personally know a lot of service members. We provided them with food and water on multiple occasions. We were assisting them with building fortifications. In 2014, we helped our service members stop the Russian aggression and preserve the city of Mariupol. And so, having learned from our previous experience, even though we didn't believe in the possibility of this full-scale warfare from the Russian Federation, this full-scale aggression, we still did our best to maintain our shelters in the best possible condition. We stockpiled water and food to make sure that our shelters could help save the residents of the city. And we had hoped that if the aggression did happen, it would last for only 2 or 3 weeks. But in reality, Azovstal has become not only the shelter for the residents of the city, but also the fortress for service members for almost 3 months. This was the last line of defense of the armed forces of Ukraine in Mariupol. Today, Azovstal is not a steel plant that produces the highest quality steel. It's a symbol of the strength and resistance of the defenders of Ukraine, who turned out to be stronger than steel. It is impossible for us to evaluate how the scale of destruction of our steel plants. However, we can rebuild the walls, we can restore our equipment, but we cannot bring back the people, and the loss of every single civilian life and every single life of service member is a wound that will never heal. Which is why an auctioneer of the Matinvest, Renat Akhmetov, decided that he cannot forget about human pain, and he decided that it is important to support those who survived. It's important to support the families of the defenders of Mariupol who have been killed in action or those who are missing in action. That's why we established this project, Heart of Azovstal, within the framework of a military initiative, Steel Front, and I believe this is quite a timely initiative. The decision made by Rinat Akhmetov was to support every single life, the lives of those who defended Ukrainian Mariupol. And if previously, as a steel specialist, I would say that Azovstal is a production plant that produces best quality steel. Today, as a Ukrainian, I see Azovstal to be a fortress that was defended by people made of steel. Fighters from the Armed Forces of Ukraine, National Guard, Azov Regiment, emergency services, Marines, medics, all of those who are ready to sacrifice their life and health to fight for the freedom of Ukraine. We were tasked to do everything possible to ensure Ukrainian victory. Matinvest Group will continue to support Ukraine all the way until victory. We will definitely rebuild Mariupol. And the steel making specialists will definitely participate in this process. We will restore our plants and facilities. They will be modernized. They will be working according to the principles of green metallurgy. Matinvest Group, including Mr. Renat Akhmetov, will do everything possible for the city of Mary to become the city of dreams, comfortable, successful, and pretty. But most importantly, it will be the city that will always remember and respect its defenders. And this project that we are launching today is the first step in this direction. Thank you so much. Thank you. I would suggest that we go back to Ksenia's presentation. We were talking about the different lines of effort, right? So that's the healthcare lines of effort, the most important line of effort that is present in all of the global projects. That's the support to the families I have mentioned, and then the future. That's the education, additional qualification, assistance in finding employment, launching their own business. It's all about reintegrating veterans into the civilian life, assisting them to find skills and competences needed. Then there's sport, access to training and Ukrainian international sports competitions. This is also a very important line of effort. Return. That's the assistance to those service members who have recently returned from being prisoners of war. And protection. That's legal protection, legal support of service members and their families. What and when are we doing? This is a short time frame for you to understand what the team is working on right now. What are our short-term goals? So in February, we'll start accepting requests to the Heart of Azovstal. We'll launch our basic communication channels and launch our pilot projects. In March, we'll create an ecosystem of partner organizations focusing on experts. As I have already said, we are working in this direction. We have organizations that we have established preliminary contacts with, and it's very interesting for us to cooperate, and they're also interested in cooperation. A few of them are presented here. Project Saving a Life. We are planning to cooperate with them on providing prosthetics. Project Unbreakable Mom, that's a support of families. That's the NGO principle. That's UNICEF, USAID, Canadian Ukrainian Fund International Support. I believe that when we start working, when we'll scale up, we'll have clear requests from our defenders. We will definitely address all of these partners, but we'll definitely extend the list of our partners as well. In April, we will start working along the lines of effort. We will launch the Coordination Council and the Supervisory Council of the Heart of Azovstal. And the last slide, it is about how you can find us. We are accepting phone calls. We are checking our email. We are ready to talk to all of you through our messengers. So these are our contacts. We will definitely scale up later on and we will notify you. However, as of right now, we are waiting for your requests. I would like to say once again that this is an incredibly important project. It is not going to be simple. It will be efficient. It will be transparent. It will definitely be about establishing a circle of support. It will be honest, transparent, based on partnership. And these are the values that the team holds near and dear to our hearts, and we're wanting to do the best we can. I would like to thank each and every one of you present here, the representatives from the ministries, our defenders, members of the parliament. Thank you all. Thank you. Thanks to our international partners for being here and for joining us. Thank you. Thank you, dear colleagues. After the end of this panel, you will be able to ask 2 or 3 questions. But I would like to invite the Deputy Minister of Social Policy, Mariana Tokareva. She's also originally from Mariupol. We're quite closely coordinating our project not only with the Mariupol garrison and not only with our partner organization, but also with the government. We understand quite well that any initiative that is being implemented is the support in an area where the state is still establishing its policy, so it's very important to ensure cooperation with the state and with the government, as it is a guarantee that the system will be established eventually, that after a victory, after the end of the war, the state will use our best practices. Because we're holding consultations back and forth right now, Uliana, I know that the Ministry of Social Policy is looking quite closely at the issue of social adaptation and social assistance to people after service. This is a whole separate area. I understand that since we have never had this large-scale experience before, there's something that is still ongoing. Quite a lot of people require assistance at the same time, and definitely the number of these people will grow. How can we, as an NGO, as a grassroots movement, how can we help the government, and what is the government planning to do to help people, to help veterans and their families? Currently, the Ministry of Social Policy and our team are moving along the 3 main lines of effort. Since 2014, there has been a project to support the service members by providing prosthetics. And in January of 2023, the government has increased the funding for these prosthetics. And if before it was 804,000, now it is more than 2 million hryvnia, because we understand that producing prosthetics and providing prosthetics is a very important step towards ensuring mobility, ensuring active movement throughout life, ensuring employment, self-sustainability. Another line of effort is when a person is living through amputation, when they require prosthetics. Together with the Ministry of Healthcare, we have included the position of social worker into the multidisciplinary rehabilitation team in every medical facility where amputations take place, because this individual helps the person to select prosthetics and to start the rehabilitation process. The social worker, they have to become the backbone of the support for the individual with an amputation. They have to enable the patient to actually procure the prosthetic, to restore relationships with the family, to settle certain issues that arise from daily life or employment. And this first 17 social workers will start working in the very near future. This is done with the support of international organizations who are holding multiple consultations with service members and with good rehabilitologists. And the third very important line of effort is the support of families, the support of individuals when they are going through a very difficult period of their lives. So there's the case managers that are helping families while the service member is on duty, as well as when the service member comes back to their regular life after service. And we're quite actively cooperating with different organizations, like with Ms. Oksana Koleda, who's present here. Coming back to your first question, how can this program come in handy? Like, as a person coming from Mariupol and as a social worker by trade, it's very important for me to hear is that beside the government-funded projects, there are also additional resources that any person can lean on, any social worker can lean on while working with the family of a service member. Which is why what Ksenia has just now presented is very important, and it has to become an important element of support for every family. Thank you so much. We are ready to establish partnership. We are ready to become this pilot platform for some important initiatives or some ideas, whereas the state has to take a look at the best practices, and we are more than happy to cooperate with the existing state systems. In this specific situation, the state is a potential consumer of our projects, but also a partner. Thank you, Ms. Ulana. And our last speaker, last but not least in this panel, is Ms. Oksana Koleda. First and foremost, Ms. Oksana is a Ukrainian service member. She is a former Minister of Veteran Affairs, and she's a person who has not stopped for a second to work on creating this ecosystem of support. I know quite well that prior to February 24th and after, the situation has been drastically different. It has drastically changed after February 24th. So my question to you is, what is happening in the government? Where is the highest deficit? What has changed after February 24th, and how can we help? First and foremost, thank you for inviting me. I would like to reflect upon what I heard from the speakers. Firstly, what you're saying about dignity and victory is very close to my heart, because supporting our veterans, supporting their families, supporting the families of those killed in action, missing in action, prisoners of war, it is about dignity, victory, and national security. If the state will not take care about them, unfortunately, we will not be able to establish the prestige of service. We will not have a strong army. But this is our task. The second thing I would like to say is Mariupol is my city as well, because my first rotations at war were there in the Sector M. And all of the people I see here in the audience are people I have known for many years, both during my years of service and in the government. That's why I really thank you for this initiative, and I'm so happy to see people doing this. The third thing I would like to tell you is that you have to understand that this ecosystem can be pretty stable in terms of cooperation of the state and a non-governmental sector. Many countries have reached a point where it is more beneficial for them to cooperate and fund the non-governmental sectors that professionally provide certain services to the veterans and their families. Therefore, keep developing, keep growing, become a part of this large family, reinforce us, and we are hoping for an open and transparent cooperation of the government with the non-governmental sector. Ms. Ulana mentioned our joint project that is being launched tomorrow, the training of social worker and case managers on working with veterans. Our team has expertise in veteran affairs. The Minister of Social Policy has the experts who are working with veterans today. And when we were selecting the specialists from different areas, we saw the will, we saw experience, we saw desire to work. So I believe that this is a very important area of cooperation with the government. Your lines of effort are very important because we have to be talking about supporting veterans today. Those of the people who quit service after being wounded, those of the people who are currently active duty, the families who are waiting for their family members to return from active duty. So definitely our first task is the restoration of their health, both mental and physical. Without good health, we'll not be able to reintegrate them into the normal life. But reintegration will definitely be happening throughout their lives. It doesn't end in a year or two. So restoring their health is definitely step number one. It is quite of a difficult task because both Mariupol defenders and their families are living in different cities, in different oblasts, in different regions. You will definitely have to closely cooperate with partners, with local communities, with regional governments, with the civil society, and of course with their rehabilitation centers and platforms. I keep highlighting that Ukraine already has unique expertise. We keep underestimating the expertise we have today. We try to look at the new international experience, but I personally know already that dozens of medics and doctors are working in our rehabilitation centers because they want to learn from us. They're bringing their standards, they're having practice here, and so we exchange experiences. So when you will plan cooperation with rehabilitation centers, please reinforce the rehabilitation centers we have. We have very strong multidisciplinary teams, but we have to scale them up. That's what we're planning to do, yeah. Because I keep hearing things like, we'll build new centers, they will be so great, somewhere in different cities, and it will take forever. It will take years. So we have to reinforce the existing centers. We have to reinforce what we have. We have centers for mental health, for specific trauma, like back trauma, for example. We have centers who focus on people who have had amputations. And there are queues of people waiting to enter those centers. And so I welcome private initiatives who launch their own platforms, but we have to make sure that these people will not be left alone with their problems. That's about healthcare. Of course, there is an issue of awareness. We have to teach civilian doctors how to work with trauma. So there has to be a training program for those who will be providing services, sure. You have also mentioned that you are relying on this Israeli experience, but also cooperating with the Israelis. But they're training all of the experts in the community how to work with service members. Doctors, teachers, psychologists, everyone has a separate program of training that also ensures they know how to work with veterans. A policeman has to be able to identify that this is a veteran. A person with a combat experience have to understand how to act. A family doctor, because I say that we have this great system called Healthy. I would like to see a badge next to my family doctors that they know how to work with a veteran. And I will go to that doctor. And my husband, who's currently at war, I would also take him to that specific doctor. So the question of awareness is also the issue number one. Work with families, a separate line of effort. This is great. You're asking for what has changed. In 2014, 2015, we have made so many mistakes because we didn't pay attention to the families waiting for service members to come back. Definitely, we did take care about the people who were the prisoners of war, who are coming back, but we didn't take care of the families. The families have to be told what is happening. Trust me, my husband is at war, and it is difficult for me. I keep saying, Oksana, come on. come back to the manual that we have developed, manual for working with families, and read through the manual. We have to preserve the families. This war is corroding the families. It is ruining families. There are families who went abroad and the men stayed here. The family has to be the primary focus. Communities. We have to develop communities by supporting veterans and their families. I have heard this phrase today about the restoration of health, restoration of Ukraine. We often talk about restoring infrastructure, schools, bridges, roads, but why aren't we talking about restoring people, restoring human potential? So many people have fled abroad. The people who are fighting today, the people who stayed here, are the people who will be rebuilding Ukraine. So we have to restore their potential first. Of course, the restoration of human potential is most effective where the people live. It will definitely be a challenge for you because defenders of Mariupol live all across Ukraine. So that will have to happen through communities. How do we enable communities to accept a large number of service members coming back? And how to ensure that communities accept people who are coming back today with amputation, with disabilities? How do we retrain them? How do we find employment? We have to work with different employers within communities. We have analyzed that 10 to 40% of companies have employees mobilized. Are they ready for those people to come back? Approximately 15,000 people from business are mobilized. That's a little bit less than 10%. Can you imagine how many people that is? Larger companies have to definitely think about teaching their HR specialists, teaching their psychologists, maybe launching veteran hubs, support centers, working with families of their mobilized employees, and also think about the career development of veterans after service. They are ambitious. They will come back from wars. They will want to climb the career ladder. Look at the world. Everyone who is successful in the world has some sort of combat experience. We have to think about how we will develop leadership skills in our veterans who will be coming back. So what is the difference? The difference is insane. Our target audience has grown to millions of people. There is also this very wide spectrum of the social status, of the profession, of welfare of people who are currently fighting. We have the CEOs and regular workers, all of them are at war. And the age of an average veteran has decreased. Those are usually like 20 plus now. So what do they have to do? After the end of the wars, they have to receive an education, establish a family, find employment. And so throughout the years, we will have to support them as the government and as the non-governmental sector. The government is not prepared to support these people in this huge scale, so we have to work together with the NGOs, with the charity sector, with business initiatives to rebuild the system, to scale up the system, to support all of them. And so your lines of efforts that you highlighted are amazing. The expert communities that is working with veterans are definitely ready to help. Besides sharing the Прості можливості organization, we're also coordinating the veteran organizations. That's 21 organizations in different regions. So you have partners there in different communities. You're creating a really cool project. We will definitely reach out. We have 5 minutes for questions to our speakers. But if we do not have questions, we will move on to a different panel. Are there any questions? There are no questions. I thank all of you, especially Ulana, who has joined us because she has COVID from home. Miss Ulana, that's a great time to be sick. Sorry, because we had to have a press conference with Miss Ulana tomorrow, and so I'm so sorry you have COVID. I am so sorry too. You will have a press conference with the minister, which is even better. Thank you. And between the first and the second panel, I would like to show you a short but a very important video. It's a video about the defense of Mariupol and about why we are doing this. Can we play?
Давай, давай.
I would like to thank Mariupol defenders who are there in this video once again. Thank Mariupol defenders who are here with us and those who are not. And I would like to invite to join me the following people. If I mispronounce your name or your status, I'm so sorry because I'm doing this for the very first time. Olena Cymbaluk, the official representative of the Ukrainian Canadian International Fund of Prosthesis Hub. Miss Olena. Edward Marshall, the founder of After Service Fund. He's our American colleague, Edward. Alexander Chilovsky, the deputy commander of the 36th Battalion of the Marines. Alexander, thank you. Serhiy Savinsky, head of the operational training service of the Eastern Territorial Command, Mr. Savinsky. This morning we have met representatives of a different task force. Unfortunately, they had to leave for a meeting with their leadership. And I want to say that for us, it is a great honor to be able to have an understanding of what type of support you need directly from you. It is a great honor for us to be able to help in general. And my main question to those who are not present today and to those who are present today, what type of support do you need primarily? What do we have to have and what do we have to keep in mind while we will be creating this system? What type of mistakes do we have to avoid? Because there are certain things that are obvious for us, of course. Today we have communicated with the representatives of Azov, and the first thing they mention are families, 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 families. The word families is the beginning of every conversation. As civilians, looking at the data from the front lines every day, we believe that the most important thing is a medical aid to service members, but the service members say that families are more important than that. Colonel, sir, a very simple question to you. What do we start with? What do we keep in mind? What mistakes do we have to avoid? Who do we communicate with? How do we make sure that we do everything correctly? First and foremost, I would like to say that it's not the start, it's a continuation. Coming back to the events of April, May, September of 2014, that's when the support truly started, when we were rebuilding the checkpoints and strongholds around Mariupol. That's when this work started. So it's a continuation of that work today. In November, when we were discussing the lines of effort or the thoughts I have had after coming back from being held a prisoner back in November, I was told that this project will actually be implemented. See, and here it is. So this is a continuation of this work that has started long ago. What I want to tell you is it is a very multifaceted process, as we have said, as it is a combination of a military component, to make sure that we do not only create certain public events, but we also work with the units that were directly engaged in the defense of Mariupol. Because there were 18 components of the Mariupol Defense Force, it is important to not forget anyone, and it's important to engage all of them into this process. Do you mean 18 units? Yes, 18 units. The second thing I want to tell you is that the key thing is targeted assistance, need-based assistance. For us not to make mistakes, it is important to make sure the assistance is need-based to the families of those heroes killed in action, for example. Because there are many service members currently held prisoners of war. There are currently a lot of those missing in action, and so the families are scattered across Ukraine and abroad. Some families, unfortunately, are currently at the temporary occupied territories. And so I think it is very important to make sure that we provide assistance to the largest possible number of Ukrainian defenders who were killed in action. Do not forget anyone, which requires a lot of effort. And I would like to also add that the combat is ongoing. Mariupol defenders are there fighting on the front lines, and their families are either in Ukraine or abroad. And so it is very important to remember about that as well, to keep this in mind, and to help the families of those defenders who are currently fighting for Ukraine. Regarding the prisoners of war, the projects have to be implemented involving the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and it has been said correctly, this project is exemplary because it has to involve not only the government bodies but also private entities, private companies. And I would like to add something on the issue of freeing Ukrainian prisoners of war. This has to happen through the process of cooperation of this project with the Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Internal Affairs, other ministries and agencies, to make sure that this issue is approached in its complexity. And that is implemented in a centralized manner through our command bodies, because there are a lot of people coming back from being held prisoners of war. And I have recently spoken to, after I returned, I was addressed by one of the residents of Mariupol, and he said, we lived at the Shevchenko Boulevard, and there was this young man who was helping us from the National Guard, and that's why he addressed me. His name is Danilo. I don't know anything else about him, but I had a young child, and he helped us with diapers, with water, with food, and he helped our building and adjacent buildings when you were deployed there in March. I understood who they were talking about. That's Danilo Kharchenko. He is currently a prisoner of war. He's badly wounded. I really hope that he will be brought home as fast as possible. But this gentleman who addressed me, he is an employee of Metinvest. So, see, the issue here is that we have to establish mutual cooperation, mutual assistance, because our defenders did not only defend Mariupol, they also helped the residents of the city. So, I would like to draw your attention to the lack of formalism, to the need-based assistance, and to cooperation with the ministries. Thank you so much. Regarding bringing people back from being held prisoners of war, we are closely cooperating with the ombudsman. Definitely we cannot help with the process itself, but we can help with the rehabilitation. We're ready to be partnering on that. We have a protocol because we understand that it's a separate category of individuals that require additional attention, and we are ready to do that. Thank you, Alexander. I know that the Marines were the largest unit represented in Mariupol garrison. I know that a lot has been done to support the defenders, but how can we help? What do we look at? What do we pay attention to? As I have been told, it's first and foremost the support of our families, because our families are the backbone. They are our support. And if we will know that our families are supported and cared for, every service member will fight better without worrying for their family. The second thing, it is psychology, definitely mental health. Psychiatrists, they have to have experience of working with us. They have to be aware how to do that, because nobody really understands a Ukrainian service member. All of those people who fought the wars, they don't know who to address, and they don't trust mental health care professionals. Sure, we talk to each other. We have this group, Azovstal, together with Azov battalion members, and we don't only engage the people who defended Mariupol, but also all of the other service members into this group. We do not separate ourselves into the people who are better or worse. We just involve all of the people who are defending our country right now, those who are currently fighting, and we're working with the families of different service members. And it doesn't matter when the service member ended up a prisoner of war, if they're missing in action. Your organization is the first one I've heard of, to be honest, to be focused on this, because when we returned home from being held prisoner of war, the mental health specialists were trying to help us, but the system is so old. We have to destroy the existing system and build a new one, and we have to pay attention to how to help our defenders, because they are not always ready to contact the mental health care workers. Glory to our heroes, of course, but there are a lot of them who have had amputations, who have received prosthetics. How do we receive prosthetics? Through the volunteers, of course. If you have volunteer friends, you get this help. I don't know about your organization, because that's the first time I hear it, but it's usually through volunteers. Volunteers help to send the service members abroad, and they come back home, and that's it. They are forgotten, and nobody wants to care about them. They don't go around screaming, "We defended Mariupol, we fought for Ukraine." No, they're quiet, and they want to keep serving. They can't find their place in the society, and so they do their best to help those who are currently deployed. They become volunteers. They try to find ways to help each other, and we support each other. And also the families keep calling us because the service members do not necessarily want to contact their own families. Americans have this idea in their project as next mission. So next mission after the front line. And this is the heart of behind the philosophy of significant after service movements, is to find this next mission for the service members. Of course they know what they want, just the system does not let them implement that. There are a lot of service members coming back with amputations, and they are confident in their power, but our system does not allow them to come back to the front lines. And so they go to training centers to train others, but our system does not allow that either because they are disabled now. And it really hurts their feelings. We talked to Masin Ayem, and he launched this project called Principle. And one of the ideas behind this project, it's a legal support because Masin Ayem is a lawyer. But one of the ideas behind this project is not only defend the service members and their needs, but also to change the system. Not all the service members know where to reach out. We will try to help where we see ways to help today. Thank you. I want to give the floor to Edward Marshall, a former American service member and a person who has been in Ukraine for quite a while and who has created the after-service movement based on the American experience. I have a very simple question. If possible, it will only take 3 minutes. How can American experience help us? What do we pay attention to? And which areas are already successful?
And to SCM and the entire group for what you've put together today.
В нас є перекладач.
Дякую, Наталія. Дякую всім присутнім і групі СКМ за запрошення представити свої думки тут.
I think if you listen to all the panelists that have talked today, they keep bringing up the importance of putting the family and the veteran in the middle of everything. And I think that is a critical element to what's there.
Мені здається, що всі почули, що всі наші спікери сьогодні говорили про важливість звертати увагу на родину військовослужбовців і інтегрувати військовослужбовців у спільноту.
And if you put the veteran in the middle and you don't try to make it one size fits all, where it's a general thing, and you try to make it one size fits one.
Так, нам потрібно спитати у колег з музею, чи можемо ми 5 хвилин закінчити. Воно ж там поки долетить. Ми можемо буквально 5 хвилин, ми поговоримо з колегами і... Гаразд.
All right, so let's do yet another 5 minutes and then we'll move towards the shelter.
Не можна придумати якесь одне рішення, яке застосовуватиметься для всіх військовослужбовців.
Especially when you look at all of these elements and we try to think of the important pieces of them. Why are we focusing on veterans? It's to prevent suicide. It's to help people reintegrate into society, reintegrate into their families, and move from there. And I think that's if you focus on the case management piece, you end up doing that. But you have to look at the entire thing, not just health, not just education, but everything all together. And I think that what we've seen from our side, at least with the groups that we worked with called America's Warrior Partnership, or sorry, I know you have to translate, that's a lot.
Тобто нам слід брати до уваги все. Не окремі сектори здоров'я, родина, спільнота, а зважати на це питання загалом, щоб і питати себе, навіщо ми це робимо, з якою метою, щоб попередити самогубство військовослужбовців, щоб допомогти їм реінтегруватися у громаду. І також важливо приділяти увагу кейс-менеджменту, тобто ведення справи кожного окремого військовослужбовця та його родини.
And I think the name of our group is Післяслужби. But the reality is that there are people are serving today. But when you think about it, there's 1.5 to 2 million veterans that will be here after victory. If you don't start now and start thinking about these things now, you can win the war and lose the peace.
І хоча назва нашої організації «Після служби», ми розуміємо, що війна триває і люди служать дотепер. Лише задуматися про те, що 1,5 мільйони військовослужбовців ми матимемо після перемоги, і ми муситимемо дбати про них.
Я хочу сказати, що
I would like to say that Edward is sharing the American experience with us right now, and I would like to thank for this opportunity to get sort of a reality check step by step, because the main source of information for us are definitely our defenders, our service members, are their families, but also we are quite closely looking at how other support projects are built in the US, because most of them are already with 20 years of experience. Thank you so much. All right, let's just say a few words. This is our partner. We have a large corporate project that is called Saving a Life, and there's a prosthetics program within that project. So we have specific experience. We are providing prosthetics to not only service members, but to all of those who require prosthetics, including civilians. For example, civilians from Mariupol who have unfortunately lost their limbs during the Mariupol siege. But I would just like to say that we have been working on providing prosthetics for quite a while, and I would like to give the floor to Ms. Olena. Good afternoon. Our initiative was launched in 2015. It was called the Project of Prosthetics Support in Ukraine. And the first few electrical prosthetics are provided in Ukraine in 2015. We have invited foreign specialists to Ukraine who share their experience, who taught our experts using Ukrainian production facilities to produce this type of prosthetics, and to set an example that there is no need to go somewhere far away to spend an insane amounts of money, because it is not rocket science. It is possible to do in Ukraine. And within our mission, we brought together three elements, even more so. On one hand, we were inviting foreign specialists to Ukraine to share their experience. We were inviting Ukrainian prosthetic specialists to learn more. And it wasn't a theoretical training that lasted for a week or two. We were providing prosthetics to Ukrainians using available facilities. The time went by and we started going more in depth into this issue, seeing what was lacking, where do we move forward. I was one of the people who, in cooperation with the Ministry of Social Policy, implemented on the state level the opportunity to receive bionic prosthetics, bionic knees, hands. We are also working on athletic prosthetics. We also cooperate with the Ministry of Social Policy to provide this opportunity on the state level as well. If you look at the level of installing prosthetics in 2015 and in 2022, the change has been so drastic. Myself, Antonina Kumka from Canada, and our Ukrainian specialists, we have put in so much effort to bring this field up to the global standard. But yeah, that was my question. What do we do to make sure that our heroes receive bionic prosthetics as soon as possible in Ukraine? The issues of awareness. Our ministries are doing a lot, but they don't focus enough, and they haven't been focusing enough on spreading information, informing veterans, informing civilians about these opportunities that exist. Those prosthetics programs are funded by the government. There's no need to use volunteer money to send people abroad, because we bring these people back and they face issues of maintenance of their prosthetics. And if the person has just recently had their amputation performed, because a lot of people have those recent amputations, it's very important to understand that for a year, the amputation will change. The amputated limb will change shape, or will morph, and this process will last a year at least. And the person will have to get the cap of the prosthetic remade a couple of times throughout the year. And so our cooperation started with the fact that we were addressed by with a list of people, service members and civilians, and the people who didn't know what to do, who to address, who to go to. And so we had implemented, with your help, with the help of the Ministry of Social Policy, we have established a hotline that you can call, and you will be told step by step what do you need to do if you have recently had an amputation. Doesn't matter if you're a civilian or a service member. If you call that hotline, you'll also be provided contacts with the nearest prosthetic producing facility. It's 380501, and then you spell out prosthetics on the phone, and that will be the number. There's also the website Prosthetics in UA. You can find any information about all of the Ukrainian prosthetic producing facilities and a list of all of the services that those facilities provide. We have verified all of that information, and with your support in the end of February and the beginning of March, we are launching this large educational platforms for the specialists, for people who have had amputations, and the platform will provide information about the basic principles of what has to be done, what is the prior to prosthetic rehabilitation. As it has been talked about during the previous platform, quite a lot of initiatives exist today, and those people think that, oh, I will build this new rehabilitation center and everything will be done. But in reality, the issue is not in building a new building, not in bringing the newest equipment. The issue is about training specialists, training rehabilitologists, prosthetic specialists. The training is the biggest issue, because if you build a center, if you take on the specialists from other centers, it will not increase the number of specialists who will be able to serve people. We have to scale this up. We have to scale up the numbers of rehabilitologists, psychologists, mental health specialists who will be assisting more people. That is the only way, as you have said correctly, for us to rehabilitate people both physically and then help them adapt in the post-war society. Thank you. I'm trying to wrap this up because the air raid siren is still on. I just wanted to say that Prosthetics Hub is one of the partners that we are planning to work with. This is an existing project working throughout Ukraine. The opportunity to solve the issue of providing prosthetics through partnership is very important for us, and we really hope that through the Officer Coordination Council we'll be able to establish this connection quicker for people to understand who to address, and our task is to provide support not just give people a number, but the number. But I'm just gonna add one thing. It hasn't been announced, but the Ministry of Social Policy is working with the Ministry of Healthcare and the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine on simplifying the procedure of providing prosthetics. Do you provide prosthetics of limbs or eyes? Unfortunately, we are focusing on limbs. Eye prosthetics is a separate line of effort. We'll talk about that later. This is something that we also have implemented in fall. I thank you so much. If you have 2 or 3 questions, we have time for 2 or 3 questions. I have a question to you. The translator hasn't finished translating.
Please, what do you mean?
Well, I think you can look at many examples of not taking care of veterans. I mean, we spend billions of dollars on veterans. We have thousands of humanitarian organizations in the United States, and still 20 or more veterans kill themselves every day. Every day. And that number is low.
Запитання стосувалося такого ідіоматичного вислову: можна виграти війну, але втратити мир, втратити щось дуже головне. І відповідь пролунала така, що розгляньмо приклад Сполучених Штатів. Там витрачаємо мільярди доларів, існують тисячі гуманітарних організацій, і все ж щодня 20 військовослужбовців накладають на себе руки. Чому? Це означає, що цю проблему не вирішено. І от саме це і до цього апелює цей вислів.
Дуже дякую. Ще одне питання.
Thank you so much. We have another question. It's more of a comment, to be honest. A lot of our partners, a lot of our colleagues didn't really understand when we were studying UN standards in terms of reintegration. A lot of our colleagues don't really understand when we talk about our experience, because for them, a reintegrated veteran is the person who will never go back to serving. For Ukrainians, a reintegrated service member is ready to come back into active duty tomorrow. This is our realia. Our neighbor is insane. That's why we have to effectively reintegrate service members while giving them opportunity to come back to active duty tomorrow. According to international standards, quite often this is considered an effective reintegration, but for us, we have a lot of service members more than willing to come back to active duty, and there have been drastic changes to the Ukrainian legislation in 2017 when the list of positions has been extended, the list of positions that can be occupied by people with disabilities, considering quite serious disabilities. Of course, those are primarily non-combat positions. It is related to the decision of the commander, but the legislation envisages this opportunity. If we're talking about Azov, there were many service members who came back as instructors. The Armed Forces of Ukraine is this huge machine, huge mechanism, and there are a lot of changes to be made in terms of mentality. There are quite a few service members with amputations of the lower extremities, below the knee primarily. I don't know a single person who did not go back to the front line. Let's just do one last comment. I'm just curious. We were in Lviv Hospital of Veterans. You know that there are military doctor commissions at the hospitals today, and they gave us this numbers that 54% of the people going through their hospital commission returned back to war. When we were in Halichina, there was a center of the Ministry of Social Policy working on rehabilitating individuals with amputations. They note that 70% of those who are going through the military medical commission state that they want to go back to serving. would like to add that a lot of people come back. Our colleague says that some commanders prevent them from doing so, but those who are willing, for example, within the system of the National Guard, considering that there are certain limitations to certain positions, the commanders of the National Guard units still try to be as welcoming as possible, and a lot of the service members who have obtained disabilities are carrying out their duties considering the disabilities. The system exists, and I would like to say that the unit commanders are as accommodating as possible to support the people who are still willing to keep defending their country, because their experience, especially as trainers, as instructors, is invaluable. That's the last thing. Who we are talking about? We're talking about the people who came back to the front lines after amputations. Those are the people who have been wounded since 2015. We're not talking about the people who have had amputations half a year ago, because it is insufficient to just get even the best prosthetic in the world. There's some time needed for rehabilitation, for adaptation, for the person to learn how to confidently use this prosthetic. And unfortunately, a lot of service members don't really understand that. But it is very important to raise awareness through different educational initiatives that you have to invest time to use your prosthetic properly, like the limb you have lost. Thank you. Since there is an air raid siren on, we are right on time. We have had some time added to the schedule for the non-formal communication, but I don't know, what do we do next? So what I wanted to say, if you scan the QR code, all of the information, all of the news about the project, all of the specific things, all the applicable information, it will be there, posted to our Facebook page. The QR codes lead you to that page. We'll definitely involve the families of those requiring assistance in those projects. But I would like to say that today we have representatives of a couple organizations that we consulted and planning to cooperate. I would like to thank them. I would like to thank them for what they're doing today. I don't know if Oksana Chaparenko is still here. She's working with Masha Refrusina on the project of mental support for mothers and children. I would like to thank Yaroslav Prigara, who cares about children who lost their parents on the front lines. And I know that you support the children of Mariupol defenders as well. I'd like to thank Miss Lena, I'm sorry, since we have been working together for a while now, and each and every one who we have consulted, it is a great privilege for us to partner up with the people who are already in business. And I would like to once again thank our defenders. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you for what the brothers and sisters in arms are doing. Thank you for finding time to talk to us. I understand that there are more important things, but we will not be able to implement this without you. Thank you to all of those who are not here with us today, who we spoke to this morning for the readiness to establish the Coordination Council of Officers. It was critical for us. It's a matter of efficiency. Thank you to all of you present in the audience. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. Thank you.